Hello, my friends. It is Laura Victoria Ward here in Role Play, a somatic embodiment class that is designed to help you feel better in your bodies. Hello, my friends. It is Laura Victoria Ward here that I've got in Role Play. There we go. How strange is that to have that double whammy going on of weirdness? Love the double whammy of weirdness. As I was sharing my computer sound, you got to hear that beginning. So I just want to share, ooh, can we see it? This book I just got from KyungHee Kim, and it is Ballet Class with Mindfulness. So she's, well, come on, there we go. She sent it from Korea. It's got a lot of amazing things in it. Oh, look at that. A lot of connection of the Laban work, Bonnie Bainbridge Cullen work, Martha Eddy work. All of them are very interrelated. All of them have studied with Irmgard at some point. I'm not sure. Anyway, so we're going to start using the developmental patterns or learning the developmental patterns of the body. And this is all going to be, you take it at your own rate. You do what feels good to you. If something completely different feels good, listen into your own body and trust that. That is what we're trying to do here, is just find new ways of tuning in and bringing our awareness into sensation, bringing our awareness into movement and learning about what those movements do, how they feel, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to start just seated with the developmental patterns, and we'll just start with them in a kind of small micro way in the body. I also just want to show that I have a star right above my head. Boing. Everyone should have a star right above their heads. So we're going to start with the first one, which is just, if we imagine we're a baby fresh out of the womb, what can the baby do? There's like a sense of aliveness in the world. Like, oh my God, what does it feel like to have skin, to feel the air on my skin, instead of being in like a warm, enclosed, wet, fluid-filled human body. So baby comes into the world. First thing, deep breath support, right? We know things are alive because they breathe. So let's work with that first fundamental pattern that we all come into the world with. And maybe it's one of the first things that we start doing, and the thing that we have to continue doing our entire life. Just breathing. So we have the sense of underlying breath support. We could say that our body is growing and shrinking with the breath. Certainly our lungs are. And on a cellular level, our body is breathing as well. So tuning into this idea of the movement of breath. How is that coming into your body? How is it going out of your body? How much are you sensing that? A lot of times in meditation, I've heard like, oh, feel the air coming in the tip of your nose and down into your lungs and back out. And I just say that for me, my sensation of breathing is very much sort of natural expansion and contraction that's going on all these different levels at the same time. So tuning into whatever your awareness of breath support is and the movement of your breath. So the movement of that breath support. We really can have no physical support if we don't have breath support. Or let me put that in a nicer way. Breath support is underlying all of our body, everything we do. Breath support is an underlying cradle that's holding us, keeping us connected into the world. We're breathing in the air, breathing out the CO2. That oxygen is moving around inside of our bodies, bringing nourishment to our systems, to our organs, to our muscles, to our aliveness through our blood. So tuning into that sensation of breath support. You may want to close your eyes to feel into it more. First primal pattern of aliveness is breath support. And one way we can come into a more parasympathetic rest and digest, soothe and settle place, processing place, is by slowing down the exhale. So if we just work to slow down our exhale. Trying to breathe in through our noses, the many noses on our face. Breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth or through your nose, either way. Finding that deep three-dimensional breath support. And from breath support, our next developmental pattern, having lots of talking issues today. Maybe my tongue, neck, and throat need to soften a little bit. But our next developmental pattern is the sense of core distal, center to the edges. So center to periphery. We see little babies lying around and their arms and feet are going, they're moving, they're developing this core distal nervous system pattern. So let's play with that. Center to the periphery, all the way out to your fingertips, all the way out to your toes, crown of your head, tail, just feeling into that, away from center and towards center. If we were a sea creature, like a jellyfish, our stomach would be the center, and we would also, like, everything would come in and go out from that same place. So imagining like a starfish or a jellyfish, just finding the sense of core distal, center to edge, center to periphery. In a very amorphous, free-flowing manner. So it doesn't have to be like that. It could be very fluid, really inviting the water in your body to participate with this really fluid pattern. So we really were working with breath in the breath support with air. And now we're in this core distal, maybe finding a little bit more fluidity, dealing more with the water in your body, feeling into your toes and your fingers, feeling into the edges, the peripheral space around you, and then letting it come back into center. So there's a natural growing and shrinking with that, reaching out and away, coming back in. Deliciousness. So that is our second pattern, this core distal, also known as navel radiation, radiating away from center, coming back into center. And then we're going to move into head-tail. So our head-tail connection, the spinal movement from the bottom through the top. And we can think of it as this one whole fluid system. Head to tail, we've got the bulb of our brain, our nervous system coming down, routing out through our arms and our legs. We've just sort of activated it through that core distal pattern. Now, can we come into that river of our spine and connect into this head-tail pattern? I just read a quote from Bonnie Bainbridge-Cohen, who was talking about if we want to have more mobility in our spines, we need to soften everything around our spine. So thinking of that center, that central axis of the body, that center line, that center midline, having some freedom, some life energy, some movement. Not thinking of our spine as a column, an architectural building item, but as a fluid river. So there's fluidity through there, there's aliveness. Thinking of even the vertebra having fluidity within them. Thinking of the discs like cushy marshmallows supporting the spine. So we have this capacity for movement. And then we've got like our discs and our vertebra, and then there's this little intervertebral muscles. So giving them some freedom and some mobility deep down the center of our core. And we can do that with micro movement, letting it free up, letting the spine dance, the river of the spine find its own fluid dance. Oh yeah, one of my dancers reminded me yesterday of the axle rose, right? Where we initiate the movement with the head and it ripples down through the body. If you haven't seen Sweet Child of Mine from like 1990, whatever it was, look at that. Look at the way he's moving. Another rock star movement to copy is Stevie Wonder. He's got that beautiful spinal movement. initiating with the head, fluidly moving down the spine. So that's one way. And that's a very specific pattern, right? There's a pattern, and I keep repeating it. If we want to really open up and become more, what's the word, adaptable, then we don't want to just stick with one pattern. We want to open up into novelty, into creativity, into new things, right? Instead of just doing the same thing over and over again. So if you feel like you've found a pattern that you keep repeating, then change it. You can slow the pattern down. You can change the space you're moving within. You could add some other awareness to another part of your body. So just working with that, shifting, changing, and trying to stay present with what's going on, with what it feels like inside, with what you're connecting to, sensing, however it's playing out within you, this dance of the awareness of your body mind, the one you, the body mind in flow, working together. And as that's happening, just inviting yourself to release any kind of bits and pieces that aren't serving you, any kind of tension patterns, anything that's harsh in your mellow. Let that go, let that soften. So we could think of that central axis, that head tail having this fluid movement, and then letting things ripple out through the horizontal planes, widening out, spreading out and away from you. So if you feel like things are coming in too much, think of like a dog shaking itself off and the water flying everywhere. But sometimes we do need to come in. So sometimes maybe coming in and coming into yourself can be a nicer way to nourish, to replenish. So sometimes coming in is the way. So I'm finding this head tail pattern as I'm coming into this self-care pose, self-care from Mark Walsh, EYP, or even just a hug, hug yourself. Yeah. And if I put my hand over my heart, I can touch into myself and my belly too. Oh, gentle, loving, kind thoughts for my body. Thank you, body. Thank you. Thank you for being here with me, being born on the planet. So let's move into our next pattern. I see my camera is having a hard time with this. It's also really bright in here, so I might just adjust the light. The sun is coming in. There we go. We're going to work with head tail. So our next pattern is upper versus lower, also known as, or sorry, we did head tail, is upper versus lower, also known as homologous. So like reaching up and coming down. So if I want to, I could stand upper versus lower. And that is just right in there with our vertical dimension, the verticality of our body, that central line, feeling up and down. We can do them at the same time, connecting heaven and earth, as above, so below. Just being in that central column. And maybe after you've done some upper versus lower, and I've already actually shifted sides with my upper versus lower, a pure upper versus lower, I would be just going up or down. It's a push-pull pattern. You see babies on their bellies doing this. So if I was in my baby version of developing upper versus lower, it might look like this. Right? Pushing and pulling on the floor. And this is really like, maybe some of the meat and potatoes of role plays, like being able to come into these patterns down on the floor. Do we recognize things in here? All of this is upper versus lower stuff. Homologous movement, right? All of this still upper versus lower. Not that a baby knows how to do a downward dog, but we're working with that pattern, upper versus lower, along the up-down axis of our body. Still upper versus lower. And then our next pattern is right side versus left side. So one side versus the other. I'm going to roll As I roll, it's one side versus the other. And as I'm rolling, I am massaging out my body. Oh, yummy, delicious, soft, and gentle body yielding into the floor. So the rolling could look like this, or I'm just going to adjust a little bit. I can open and close, opening and closing to roll. Homolateral movement, moving one half and then the other. I was planning on doing all of this seated, but I think we spent so much time seated with the navel radiation and the head tail and the breath support that it's really nice to come into more full body movement, one side versus the other. So I'm opening, 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 and then I'm closing, 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 closing. And I'm allowing myself to yield into the floor, spreading like butter across the floor. And if I really slow it down and slowly just pour myself across, it feels very different. Taking my time. I could do this with my feet on the floor, which would be maybe more gentle. So it doesn't have to be such a massive thing. Even if you just lay on your back and have a little side to side movement. I know so many people that are like in excruciating back pain. It's like, okay, lay down on the floor once a day. Get on the floor for 5 minutes and just slowly release into gravity. Let your back body get some love. Like if I do this on my bed, it's not going to affect me in the same way. You could use some padding. Like here's this really squishy mat. When my mom does her work on the floor, she uses this. She's in her 80s, early 80s, but she uses that. And she's found like getting down on the floor and doing all of her sort of physical therapy exercises really keeps her able to keep moving. So it's a move it or lose it life, right? We want to be able to keep moving. So we want to be gentle and soft. Nice homolateral pattern, side to side movement. If I was on my back, let's just go back to the upper versus lower movement again. What's this? Upper versus lower. What's this? Pilates, upper versus lower. So much of that. Upper versus lower. This, still upper versus lower. Anything where we're moving this, upper versus lower. You know, the upper half either could be with the lower half, could be rolling up, upper versus lower. So just coming, or it just could be a gentle heel rock. This is an upper versus lower. This is a Bartenia fundamental. Relax your neck and jaw, send a ripple of movement like a wave up and down through your body. Back to that upper versus lower. So we can switch from one pattern to recuperate into another pattern. Like if I feel like I've been doing one pattern for too long, my body's like, ugh. If I switch into another one, or just listen to my body, which one would feel good right now? We've done so much side-side. Maybe I want to do some upper versus lower. But now let's go back into our side-side. So here's a body half. Just bending one side, bending the other. I'm in the position of an X. Elbow to knee, and slide it out. Elbow to knee, slide it out. Another Bartenia fundamental. Now we're going to work cross body. So the next most advanced thing that a baby learns to do, we have mastered the side to side. Maybe we've mastered the side to side so much we can roll all the way onto all fours. Here's some upper versus lower. Now I'm going to add cross body movement, contralateral movement. I'm crawling backwards. Now I'm going forwards. This is another great thing to do. You might need more padding, but just to get back down onto the ground. Learn how to move like a baby again. Contralateral movement. So I could do, this is human adult contralateral movement. It's called walking. Contralateral movement, right? If I'm laying down, there's lots of ways I can do contralateral movement, cross body. Are we enjoying the weirdness of my stripes in the video? Nice little optical activity. And then also something like this, in a gentle way. Or in a really free flow way, you can kind of play with it. How does it feel to work across your body in more of a free flow way? Can we keep finding that opposite shoulder to hip relationship? So anytime we're working with these diagonals across the body, even twisting is a great contralateral thing, right? Crossing midline, contra, across, lateral, one side, contralateral. Sometimes people call it cross, what is it? Contralateral, cross lateral, same thing, crossing lateral, crossing lateral. You see little kids sometimes recuperating. This is like the cutest thing. They got their feet crossed. Just pay attention to your own body. How is the crossing? Like sometimes we need to be there. Sometimes this, or even here. Sometimes I like to go all the way and get that leg all the way through. Feel into what happens in your body when you let yourself cross over like that. Chances are you're going to have a preference for one side. Recuperation can be doing something different, right? So I can recuperate in my contralateral twisty position, even recuperating here, doing some activity. I'm recuperating with activity from not doing anything. I'm recuperating using activity from sitting for too long. And now I'm going to mix all my patterns together and just see how it's going. Oh, there are 2 people watching. Hello, people watching. I'm probably one of them. So whoever the other person is, nice to see you out there in the TV lands. So let's mix all the patterns together right now. How are we going to mix the patterns? It's going to be a free-for-all, free flow movement, whatever you feel like feels good to you, whatever feels yummy and delicious. And to make it more fun and exciting, I'm going to add music. Let's see. Let's go with this. Letting yourself move through whatever patterns feel delicious, feel interesting. So I've gone into this core distal. And spinal movement. Side rolling, homolateral. So often there will be these mixtures of things, like I'm doing core distal with a lot of other things, because I'm feeling the center to the edge. But I'm also rolling, I'm adding my side. I can do upper versus lower at the same time. And I'm just dancing with it, letting my body tell me what would feel good, what is interesting, what is yummy. So if you're watching this and you have any questions, feel free to write it in the chat. You can ask. I will look at it in a minute. Oh, I think I might have done the short version of that song. Oh, I did. That was the birth intro short. That is Tonus Maximus music. Let's use one more Tonus Maximus song. This is called Lady Emptiness. And then your own emptiness, dancing with the emptiness in a sort of non-dual way. What can you let go of? Where can you create more space? Can you find playfulness mindfulness in your movement? Can you find lightness? Breathing into it, free flow movement, giving your body space to process, space to work through emotional content, physical content that we don't have a lot of time for processing in our lives these days. So let this be the moment. It doesn't have to have a story. You can just let your body move, let it dance. Very non-judgmental, free flow movement. Casting the spells that you need in your life, right? What do you need? I need more freedom. I need more joy. I need more play. I need to know when to open and when to close. We need to do both things. We need this balance between the outer and the inner. When do I need to take care of myself to close in, or even just to take care of myself and open out? Giving yourself permission. Breathing into it. Core distal, center to periphery. Radiating away, coming back in, growing and shrinking. Good to like really work with the muscles as well, like feeling your strength, pushing away, coming in for a landing. Head tail, right? Could be tail head, could be tail head, rippling, waving. In what you need, what your body needs. Whew. Being the DJ, the tech, and running the class all at the same time. Amazing. Super homemade. Anyway, all right. So let's just come in. Quick review. Coming in for a landing. See where you are now. So it's nice that even after we've done all that processing, to give yourself a little bit of stillness. Come back to that breath support. Deep underlying support. Maybe sprinkling a couple of thoughts of loving kindness for your own animal body. Your cells know what you think about them. Your body parts know what you think about them. So maybe some love bath for the body, giving it some care. Ha. Yummy deliciousness. So thank you if you have made it through the whole thing. Good job. Thank you. And that's it for today. The advertisement, please like and subscribe. Feel free to donate to keep this content coming. Laura-Ward-30 at Venmo or Octavia Cup at Yahoo on for PayPal. I also have Zelly. I have all the things. So feel free to help me